He called her his soulmate after 3 days. Flowers every morning. Text that said, "I've never felt this way about anyone." Within 2 weeks, he wanted her to move in. 6 months later, she was isolated from every friend she had, and she still couldn't explain how it happened. This is love bombing, and it's not romance. It's a manipulation tactic with a psychological blueprint, and by the end of this video, you'll never be able to unsee it. Psychologists define love bombing as an excessive display of affection, attention, and admiration used to overwhelm another person's judgment early in a relationship. The term was actually coined by cult researchers in the 1970s and 80s, because this exact tactic is how cults recruit members. The mechanism is simple. Your brain is wired to bond with people who make you feel valued. Dopamine floods your system every time you receive praise, gifts, or intense attention. Under normal circumstances, this happens gradually. Trust builds over time. Love bombing hijacks this system. Instead of gradual bonding, the manipulator front-loads months of affection into days. Your nervous system doesn't have time to build genuine trust. It just gets flooded with reward signals. And when the brain is flooded like that, critical thinking takes a backseat. Love bombing isn't random. It follows a predictable 3-phase pattern that researchers and therapists who study coercive control see over and over. Phase 1. Idealization. You are put on a pedestal. You're the most interesting person they've ever met. They mirror your interests, your values, your humor, sometimes within hours of meeting you. This isn't chemistry. It's reconnaissance. They're learning exactly what you need to hear. Phase 2. Devaluation. Once you're emotionally invested, once you've let your guard down, maybe introduced them to family, maybe started depending on that constant affection, the tone shifts. Small criticisms start. Affection becomes conditional. You start working to get back the version of them you met in phase 1. This is the hook setting. Phase 3. Discard or control. In relationships, this either ends in abrupt abandonment, leaving you confused and chasing closure, or it evolves into a long-term cycle, where the highs and lows keep you tethered, unable to leave because you're chasing the ghost of phase 1. This cycle has a name in psychological literature: idealize, devalue, discard. And it's one of the most consistent patterns identified in narcissistic and coercive relationship dynamics. Here's what most people get wrong about love bombing. They think only insecure or naive people fall for it. The opposite is often true. People who deeply value connection, who are generous, empathetic, or who felt lonely or underappreciated, are the most susceptible. Not because they're weak, but because love bombing specifically targets the exact need they already have. If you've ever felt unseen in past relationships, someone seeing you intensely feels less like a red flag, and more like finally being understood. Manipulators, particularly those with narcissistic traits, are often skilled at reading this. Research on manipulation tactics shows this isn't always fully conscious strategy either. For some, it's simply the only relationship pattern they know: intensity, then control. That's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't look like manipulation while it's happening. It looks like the best relationship of your life. So how do you spot it before you're 6 months in? A few signals stand out consistently in the research on coercive relationship patterns. Speed. Major declarations: "I love you, you're the one." Talk of moving in or marriage, within days or weeks, not months. Excessive contact. Constant texting, needing to know where you are, getting upset if you're slow to respond, framed as passion, but functioning as monitoring. Premature merging. Rapid isolation from friends, pressure to prioritize the relationship over everything else, framed as, "We don't need anyone but each other." Conditional warmth. The affection has a transactional undertone, subtle expectations attached to the gifts and compliments. The core question to ask yourself: is this pace of intimacy something I set, or something that's happening to me? Love bombing works because it borrows the exact language of real love: intensity, attention, devotion, and weaponizes it. The tragedy is that it teaches victims to distrust the very things that make relationships genuine: closeness, generosity, vulnerability. Understanding the pattern doesn't mean becoming cynical about connection. It means learning to tell the difference between being valued and being managed. If this pattern sounds familiar, you're not naive, and you're not alone. Awareness is the first step out of it. If you want to understand the next stage of this, how manipulators maintain control once the relationship is established, that's coming in the next video. Subscribe so you don't miss it.